Best defense, best offense. Harden. Back to Jeremy Lin. Sets, fires. Yeah! Jeremy Lin having an unbelievable game.
Being Asian American, I think, that in terms of that, it's just a lot of people see Asian Americans as, whatever they have their stereotype for, and it's never really been, a professional athlete, or at least in a basketball sense.
Former NBA star Jeremy Lin says he has experienced racism while playing basketball. In a social media post, Lin says he has been called coronavirus on the court, but says he has no plans to name or shame anyone.
From being an ambassador for Jesus Christ, I think, hopefully through my story and through, all the improbables and the miracles that have happened in my life, people are inspired, or at least a little bit more warm to the idea of, exploring who Jesus is. Well, I guess it starts back in Palo Alto. I grew up with, on the nice side of town in Palo Alto. I grew up in Northern California, and to some degree, it's a little bit of a bubble, for sure. For me, if it wasn't straight A's, I wasn't playing basketball. So you made sure I was getting straight A's. That was kind of just a family rule. It's interesting, like my parents growing up, they were traditional in some sense, so I did the whole piano, violin, and all these different things that every Asian immigrant kid was doing. But then at the same time, they were really unique too, because they saw that me and my brothers, we just loved basketball. And so they actually let us do it, and they spent basically all the money they were making was to go towards the house mortgage or like AAU basketball and stuff like that. When I was in 6th grade, we were playing in a basketball game. That's when they were kind of like, go back to China, or you're a Chinese import, and other stuff like that. That was kind of the first time where I was taken a little bit aback and just like, oh wow, people do still see me differently.
As Palo Alto takes on Matter Day for the D2 state title, as Jeremy Lin tosses a sweet pass to Keaton Scott, who puts in 2 of his 11 points on the night. 4th quarter belongs to Lin. He picks up a screen and jets by to the bucket. Palo Alto up by 5, but to pull the Monarchs within 2. Huge play here as Lin hits the bank shot with time running down. It's a 3-pointer. Palo Alto holds on for the 51-47 win. The Vikings can celebrate, beating the heavily favored Matter Day team to take the D2 title.
And then next thing you know, I got a chance to play in high school and go on to Harvard. By the time I made it to Harvard, a lot of people were like, wait, so what other sports can we have our kids start playing so that they can make it to Harvard too? So it was a really cool role reversal. First of all, just being Asian American, obviously, you're not gonna be able to only prove yourself one time and have everyone believe, just because of the way I look. It's gonna have to be again and again and again, and there's gonna always be doubters, and I'm gonna have to constantly prove myself above and beyond.
Goes up with the right hand, lays it in. 3 seconds left. Harvard back the other way, down by a point. Jeremy Lin bumps it midcourt, leads in, he's full. He's going to go. Harvard wins it. Harvard wins it. Unbelievable. Jeremy Lin on an unbelievable shot.
Good evening and welcome to the 2010 draft at Madison Square Garden in New York City. With the first pick in the 2010 NBA draft, the Washington Wizards select John Wall from the University of Kentucky. With the 10th pick in the 2010 NBA draft, the Indiana Pacers select Paul George of Fresno State University.
That was, I remember when I didn't get drafted, my agent, Roger Montgomery, basically said, look, you have 5 games in Summer League. You either make it happen or you don't. But, like, if you want to get to the NBA, it's got to be here in the Summer League.
Lynn, surprise attack. Oh, this is going to be interesting. Sanders there. Lynn protected at home. Wow.
Nice play. You know, great effort by Sanders, just a better play offensively by Lynn.
This is where something for me, like, faith has always been a big part of it. But I was injured, and then, like, right before the Summer League training camp started, like the day before, I got cleared by the doctor. And then on top of that, at that time I was playing for the Mavs. Roddy Dubois got hurt, so that's why I ended up playing the whole fourth quarter. And we were playing against John Wall, who was the #1 pick. And that's the, and I got to go head to head with them, and that's the only reason, I had played pretty well. They ended up winning, but that's the reason why I got the contract.
Has a chance to make history as the first Asian American NBA player in the modern era. Lynn grew up in Palo Alto, signed with the Warriors today. He grew up as a Warriors fan, idolizing guys like Latrell Sprewell.
My dream was to play in the NBA, and now I get to do it for the Warriors, the team that I grew up watching. Like you said, it's more than a dream come true if that's possible. I consider myself more of a basketball player. I know I'm ready to play at this level more than I'm concerned about being Asian American. Steph, at that time, like in his second year, was just like, he was getting benched a lot. Like, he was really going through it, and he was kind of, getting jerked back and forth in terms of like playing time, his leash, and I felt terrible for him. And then on top of that, he started to struggle with his ankle. And so it was a really tough year for him, but he was always like, you never could tell he was anybody, like, he never treated himself above anybody else. That's the biggest thing that I had learned from him, and his love for the game. His love for the game was really contagious. Like, you just knew this dude loves playing basketball. You guys know what it's like to play in the Bay, so it was just a different level. It killed me, to be honest. Like, I wasn't expecting it, like the anxiety and the pressure, it killed me my rookie year. Like, I didn't know how to handle it, just playing at home and everybody every day just like hitting me up or just like focused in on what I was gonna do, which was nothing my rookie year. Iman Shumpert got hurt with the Knicks, and so the Knicks picked me up because they had liked my pre-draft workout, and they liked what I did in the D-League. And so I went out to the Knicks, and I was just like, man, like, the whole thing is a miracle from God. I can't even deny it.
Pressure, driving to the basket, does it again. Splits the defense again, gets to the rim, puts it in, and Lynn on the drive, gets inside, reverse, 22 from downtown. Lynn drive and finishes. There's the dunk you talked about.
Are you surprised at the production that Lynn's had over the past week?
I don't even know what he's done. I have no idea what you guys are talking about.
I don't think he knew who I was, according to a few interviews. So I was just trying to be aggressive. I didn't really care who was guarding me.
Lynn with 5 assists. Tough turnaround shot. Gets it again. Lynn likes the open floor. Puts it up and banks it in. Sensational play for Jeremy Lin. And the Clark crowd on its feet again.
I'll be giving all I got. Really living
4-point game. Under 3.5. Lynn on the drive. Banks it in. Terrific balance unit. Lynn for 3. Bang! Lynn on the drive. Gets inside. Banks it in. Wow! How about that?
I've made a lot of mistakes, and at the same time I've had to improve a lot and work on a lot of different things, but God has used me and worked through me in a lot of different situations, even with my own fears, even with my own flaws, and He's used me in an underdog role and elevated me to being able to play in the NBA, and that's just something where I need to give credit where credit is due, and I think glory does go to God, and I can't say enough about that.
chance to tie. Lin driving, one. Lin to Shumpert. Lin puts it up. Bang! Jeremy Lin from downtown, and the Knicks take the lead. Amazing here at the Yellow Canada Center.
Everybody with deflections, rebounds, and we just clamped it down in the fourth quarter. We couldn't get a stop. we couldn't get a stop to save our lives.
The Jeremy Lin saga has captured the imagination of New York City and really basketball fans everywhere.
Linsanity has taken over New York City, Carmelo Anthony. How do you feel about that?
I love it.
Why?
I love it. I'm a part of it. I think that's what I know. That's something that I've been looking for this year. I mean, us losing Chauncey, us having the big dreams and the big goals of Chauncey returning. And I know how that situation was going to play out. But everybody been looking for this. Everybody been looking to see who was going to be New York's next point guard. And Jeremy Lin got the opportunity and he's taking advantage of it.
If people say that Carmelo Anthony is a selfish player, how do you respond to that?
That's like a slap in the face. Never been a selfish player. None of my teammates that I ever played with could say that I was a selfish player. Nobody.
How does it make you feel that people say that? That they're questioning that because of Jeremy Lin and whether or not you guys can coexist?
It's a tough situation. I mean, I'm human at the end of the day, so it's like, damn, where's that coming from? Like, I know I'm not a selfish player. The people around me know I'm not a selfish player. I do everything I can to try to make people, understand that I'm not a selfish player. Jeremy Lin was a blessing in disguise for us. I mean, he fell down. He fell down, and from upstairs for us in a situation that we've been looking for a guy to take over that position. But it's going to take a lot of work, and I'm willing to do it. We all got to be willing to do it.
It's very difficult for me to believe in the world that we live in that the fact that Jeremy Lin is Asian and the fact that that's not something that we see commonly in the NBA. I think he's the first American-born Taiwanese player in the NBA. That's a part of the story. That's a part of the hype. That's a part of why people push this.
It is a part of the Jeremy Lin story that wasn't exactly feel good. ESPN became part of the story over the weekend when a headline writer was fired for using the phrase chink in the armor to describe the Knicks' first loss in the Jeremy Lin era.
But if there is a chink in the armor, where can Lin improve his game?
Floyd Mayweather claims that all the Lin hype is race-based.
Mayweather tweeted the following, quote, Jeremy Lin is a good player, but all the hype is because he's Asian. Black players do what he does every night and don't get the same praise, unquote.
He is viewed more as an Asian than he is a basketball player. Is that fair?
And why is it a case of Jeremy Lin, the Asian American basketball player? Why can't it be a basketball player who happens to be Asian American?
Linsanity. I remember that was an amazing time. I was the most popular person on the planet, literally. Things took off in Manhattan, and I was the #1 most searched person of the entire year. I was Time 100 most influential, cover of back-to-back Sports Illustrated, like all these different things. I was everywhere. And literally the most popular person, second place was Psy for Gangnam Style for the song. Yeah. So good year for the Asians. And I remember I was just so thankful because I was like, man, now people know what I can do. People know what I'm capable of as a basketball player. But it seemed like overnight, went to the Rockets and a turn of events where it was like, man, I can't believe I'm not coming back to New York.
Evidence is mounting that the New York Knicks will not bring back Jeremy Lin. In fact, I reported that they're saying they're not going to match the Houston Rockets' $25 million 3-year offer to Jeremy Lin.
Ian Begley from ESPNNewYork.com joins us now with breaking news. Ian, what is it?
Linsanity is over in New York.
You talk about a 23-year-old point guard who went out there last year in limited time
really changed the landscape and expectations of this franchise going forward.
And in an instant, I went from, you know, the toast of the town to kind of feeling betrayed and getting kicked on the way out.
You got the glasses on.
I really don't believe he's all that.
Well, what's all that?
Don't believe
Yeah, what's
he's
all that?
all
If
that.
Raymond Felton all that, he's better than Raymond Felton.
Yeah.
Is Jason Kidd right now all that?
And I was like, you know what? It's okay. Just wait. Just wait. I'll show you. And so I trained, and I trained really hard. I didn't take any vacation. I told my family, I'm like, look, I'm not taking vacation. I would train sometimes 3 times a day. And it was a rough year. I lost my starting position. I had a huge turnover in the playoffs. We lost game 4 against the Blazers. There without, you know, a lot of hate. It just seemed like everything anybody would say to me was really negative.
Did y'all see Jeremy Lin difficulty going to his left? Did y'all see Jeremy Lin that can't defend you or you?
For him to get that kind of money, people are going to come at you and question why you got paid the money that you got paid.
You know, nobody wanted to give him his props. Probably so. We're starting to find out that maybe he doesn't deserve it.
And I remember asking God, I said, why would you give me Linsanity just to turn it all against me? Like, what a setup. I had a crucial turnover in Game 4 of the NBA playoffs. The Portland Trailblazers ended up winning, and I remember being absolutely devastated after this game. I had worked so hard the whole season, and in one split second, but it was this night when God taught me the most important lesson I've learned as a Houston Rocket. He taught me what real success was. He showed me that even in the midst of all my quote-unquote failures, I had actually been succeeding. Yes, I did make a crucial turnover in the playoff game. And yes, I'm not a starter anymore. My popularity ratings are as low as they've ever been. My stats have gone down 2 straight years. But God has used all these setbacks to slowly strip me of all my idols that compete for his attention. He has gradually peeled away my pride, my selfish ambition, my self-centeredness. And only by removing my idols could God draw me closer to him. Most of you guys don't know this. Ever since college, I've struggled tremendously with pre-gaming anxiety. Before every single game, I would get so nervous and scared of playing poorly. No matter what I did, I could never shake free of my pre-game anxiety. And I remember dreading and hating game days because I would get so nervous. Sometimes it was so bad. I couldn't sleep the night before and I couldn't eat the day of the game. So going into my second year in Houston, I had this plan to conquer my anxiety. I planned to have this breakout year so that I wouldn't have to worry about getting benched. So that I wouldn't have to live underneath the shadow of Linsanity. And I felt like if I could do that, that would get rid of my anxiety. But my plan was immediately in jeopardy, and I was overwhelmed with anxiety once I realized I might not start. So I got on my knees and I cried out to God. I said, Lord, please, please help me. I said, I can't go through another miserable season again. And I don't have the strength to get through it, so please help me. And what happened over the next 2 weeks was incredible. I was reading the Bible one day, and I came across a very great verse that spoke to me, so I wrote it down. Within a day or two, my mom read a devotional. She had that same verse, and so she emailed it to me. And then I received a random email from my friend. He felt like he needed to encourage me, so he had sent this email, and in that email, it highlighted the same exact verse. So at this point, I was like, okay, God's trying to get my attention. Then it started to get really spooky. I was surfing the web, and randomly there came up a picture, and on that picture was a verse written in it. My friend, who I had not spoken to in about a year, he had just randomly sent me a text message. He said, I know we haven't talked in a while, but I just felt like I should share this verse with you. Then I was cleaning out my apartment, and I found a necklace. And on that necklace was this same exact verse written on the necklace. And I promise everything I'm saying is true. So after all these things happened within a 2-week span, I knew God was talking to me. There are 31,103 verses in the Bible. What are the chances that this one verse pops up 6 times over the course of 2 weeks? This verse was Joshua 1:9. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and be courageous. Do not be afraid and do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. I had begged God to give me the strength to deal with me losing my starting position, to deal with my pregame anxiety. And he answered that prayer through Joshua 1:9. He told me over and over not to be afraid, to have courage and to trust in him every single step of the way. See, the thing is, he didn't answer my prayer by giving me my starting spot. He gave it to me through scripture. So right before our first game of the season, when they told me that I had lost my starting position, I still had tremendous peace. I had meditated on and repeated Joshua 1:9 to myself. And I knew that God was going to be with me wherever I went, even to the bench. And you know what the best part about coming off the bench was? That pregame anxiety that I struggled with for the last 6 years finally went away. God taught me he may not always rescue me when I want to get out of a certain situation, but he is always with me as I walk through that situation.
Well, a domino has fallen out here in Los Angeles. As Jeff Goodman of ESPN reports, the Houston Rockets have dealt Jeremy Lin and a future first-rounder to the Los Angeles Lakers.
Really excited to be a part of this organization, and obviously for me it's been I'm seeing it as a new start, a fresh start, and it's good to be back in the state of California. I was so happy because I was like, this is my moment. I can get out of Houston. I'm going to a place that needs a starting point guard, and I can show the world what I can do. I can be great at basketball again.
All in their hands. Who is doing the facilitating? They've got to have some level of cohesion if this offense is going to work. Because right now it's a Kobe-centric offense. Everything going through him, through the mid-post. Let Jeremy Lin make people better.
He's pushing me and he's demanding a lot from me, and he's, definitely taking on a mentorship role for me on the court, and that's something that I don't think I've had in my previous 4 years in the league, and it's just nice to have somebody who's pushing me and helping me, teaching me the tricks, and it's also nice when he's one of the best to ever do it.
Lin will direct traffic.
Clippers going crazy, wanted to travel right there on Boozer.
Shot clock at 6. Kobe pointing, now setting the screen. Shot clock at 2. Lin has to heave and buries it. Line with a chance to tie as we take another look at Lin's shot.
Always better player going to the right, but that is some kind of shot.
We all know how that season went. We were a national joke. We were literally the joke of the league. We won like 20 games.
You're talking about he's going to fire test, he's going to initiate, he's going to pull out the best in somebody, because that's the way Kobe was treated when he was an 18-year-old kid trying to come up through the ranks. But Kobe is a rare specimen. We all agree with that, right? And there's also a side of Kobe that knows they can't be like him. So he intimidates them. He pretty much runs over everyone.
That's awesome.
And I remember during that season, there were so many sleepless flights. There were so many sleepless nights. Just my mind tossing and turning. And there was just so much angst and pain. And, again, similar questions. God, how can you do this to me? Do you love me? Why would you basically set me up for this?
Jeremy Lin announced on Instagram Wednesday that he will sign with the Charlotte Hornets.
I think it's another move that adds more talent offensively.
You ready, Charlotte? Insanity headed your way.
Offensive shot clock at 8. Splits the defense again. Gets to the rim. Pucks it in. And a foul. Lin has to put it up. The shot clock expired. Lin alley-oop to 7. Wow. And Lin the steal to the basket.
Well, gone are the days of Linsanity, the fairy tale debut for Jeremy Lin as a New York Knick. But for those who doubted the NBA viability of Lin after forgetful stints with the Rockets and then the Lakers, in Charlotte, not only winning the hair game, but playoff games as well.
Haiku on the beat.
Seems like looking at the smile on your face, you feel like you've found the right fit for yourself, don't you?
Yeah. I can't fake genuine excitement. I really am excited to be here.
Show and go action right there. Nope, really thought he was going to whistle, just threw it up.
Oh, Jeremy Lin!
Lin gets bumped.
Oh, and he still finds it!
He told me I'd play alongside Kemba, which I think is really, really awesome because he's so dynamic, he's quick, he knows what he's doing, he's a great player, and I think he can be an all-star and possibly should have been an all-star at times when he wasn't, and so just to be able to play alongside him, I feel like we're going to be just these two short, quick dudes running around the court wreaking havoc. That's kind of what I envision. And so what that looks like and playing alongside him and all that is stuff that we've already talked about.
Jay Lynn. Thank you. Way to be aggressive, boy. Come on.
Wade on the bench. Here comes Lynn. He banks it in.
After he makes this shot, banking it in off the glass, when he turns back towards where his owner, Michael Jordan, remember Jordan doing that in that Portland game?
We made the playoffs. We had a pretty good run. We lost in the first round, but that whole season I kept thinking to myself, I'm a back.
Jeremy Lin is going to be going to Brooklyn. Chris Broussard, Mark Stein reporting 3 years, $36 million.
I think they just came in with a huge offer here, $12 million a year for Jeremy Lin. He goes from being the backup in Charlotte, where he had a great year, to being the bona fide starter in Brooklyn.
What made Brooklyn an attractive destination for you?
Just a chance to be a point guard, a starting point guard, play for Kenny. Obviously, we have a relationship, and I just feel like this organization, what Sean's done, bringing a new vision, it's a blank slate in a lot of ways, so I'm excited for the future. And so again, a big summer, and finally in that summer, I signed with the Brooklyn Nets. And I signed with a coach that I had worked with on the Knicks. And I was like, this is legitimately that opportunity that I've been waiting for. And I remember I signed the contract, and I was like, all you fools who counted me out, you're about to eat your words. I've trained for years, and I'm at a point where I can really take over it. And I'm right down the street from where everything started.
I can tell you, if it wasn't for Kenny, I would not even have considered coming, to be honest. In many ways, he was the only reason why I was even keeping Brooklyn as one of the potential landing spots, like 90% of the way through the process. It wasn't until I actually met with everybody else and learned what they were doing and saw how they wanted this to go that other factors started to factor in besides just Kenny.
I didn't even know what a hamstring really was. Like, I didn't even know you could hurt this muscle in the back. But that season, I hurt it 3 times. I missed over 50 games. And I remember just feeling so empty. And I remember thinking to myself, you know, I've waited 5 years since Linsanity for me to just have the right opportunity and to be healthy and to show everybody what I can do. And I was like, God, how long do I have to wait? How long do I have to wait? And I was like, it's all right, just wait, I'm gonna train. And so I trained again, 6 months, got myself top shape, working on all my weaknesses.
Jeremy Lin, who has gone through a lot of hairstyles, is now wearing dreadlocks. This offended former NBA player Kenyon Martin, who said on Instagram, quote, "Do I need to remind this damn boy that his last name is Lin?"
So, my last post, man, like, do I need to remind this damn boy that his last name Lin? Like, come on, man, let's stop this, man. These people, man. Like, there was no way possible, man, he would have made it on one of our teams, man, with that bullshit going on his head, man. Like, come on, man. Like, somebody really need to tell him, like, all right, bro, we get it. We get it, like, you want to be black. Like, we get it. But the last name is Lin. All right?
Lin came back saying, quote, "It's all good. You definitely don't have to like my hair. You're entitled to your opinion. At the end of the day, I appreciate that I have dreads and you have Chinese tattoos because I think it is a sign of respect. And I think as minorities, the more that we appreciate each other's cultures, the more we influence mainstream society," unquote.
And when he brings up the Chinese tattoos line, I mean, it's kind of game over at that point.
I would
right?
think so.
It's a pretty good counter.
Kenyon Martin called out Jeremy Lin for wearing dreadlocks, and now Lin is talking back.
Jeremy Lin crushes Kenyon Martin.
To pit us against each other, like I won versus Kenyon Martin winning. Like, I don't think that's the right way to go about it. Like, it's not really about winning or losing. Like, the whole point is that, like, we're trying to be unified. So I feel like even sometimes when people come to me and say, "Oh man, like you embarrassed him," or it's like, dude, that's not what it's about, right? Like, that's not the whole point of this discussion is to pit it into two sides and see who wins. Like, the whole point is that we all have to get on the same page. And I think we need to have people stop going on his page and saying racist things to him too. Like, that's not okay.
Tony, there's a valid concern about cultural appropriation in society in general. I think that's valid, and it has to do with this specific recurring problem. It's the profiting off of others' culture without acknowledging where it came from or paying your respects. But that's not what Kenyon Martin's critique is here. It's not. Kenyon Martin is alleging Jeremy Lin wants to be black, and we wouldn't allow that on my team because that's ridiculous. Jeremy Lin, before this even happened, before this Instagram video came out, had a Players Tribune story in which he was deeply introspective and thoughtful about who he talked to. He consulted people, went on a listening tour about hair and blackness, right? Like, he approached this as thoughtfully as possible.
Kind of what I said in my article, right? Like, we just need to spend a little bit more time thinking about what we say, thinking about what it's like to be somebody else. Like, at the end of the day, he said what he said, but I'm not really that offended. Like, if that's how he thinks, that's how he thinks. But my job is still to be gracious, loving, and whatever. And I think if I can, just share with him a little bit of my side, I think the next time maybe he'll have a different viewpoint.
See, I done ruffled a few of y'all feathers, so good. Take y'all comments to the bank and see what they give y'all for them. That's what I think about him first and foremost. But that man grown. That man can rock whatever hairstyle he want to rock. That don't mean I have to like it or agree with it. Second of all, I'm grown. I can say whatever I want to say about whatever I want to say it about. Ain't about race, ain't about none of that. Like, grow up, people. It was a joke, but I don't like it. I don't agree with it, so it is what it is. I love it. I'm having a fabulous Wednesday, man. Y'all do the same.
And that brings me to the first game of last season. We're in Indiana playing against the Pacers.
The new season is here as we join you tonight from Indianapolis, opening night in the NBA. No look, Jeremy Lin lays it in. D'Angelo Russell with a blind feed to the cutter.
Absolutely beautiful.
Finally, I'm going into my second year. And again, the coach is a great coach. I'm a starting point guard. Everything on paper is lined up for it to be what I think it should be and could be.
Sometimes you got to keep it simple and not overpass.
Lin sticks it. It's a three. Jeremy Lin.
And so on opening night, I go up for a layup, come down on my right leg, and boom.
Lin. That's goaltending. Lin goes down hard. You can hear the bang as he hit the floor. Oh boy. Jeremy Lin is down. His teammates have come over.
My patellar tendon gone. And I remember I landed, and like right now, for my knee or your leg, like you can straighten your leg. Like when I landed, I tried to straighten my leg, but I couldn't. My leg was just dangling.
This stinks. He tore the patellar tendon in his right knee last night.
He's going to miss the rest of the season. You can see him just shaking his head there. He's saying, I'm done. I'm done. As soon as he landed on it, I mean...
That's the worst.
That's
got to be the worst to get hurt on opening night.
Right?
To be the absolute worst.
And to have it just know right away.
Thursday morning, the team announced Lynn is done for the season.
And so we were in Indiana. We flew back to Brooklyn, and when I landed in Brooklyn, I have a picture of my knee, but it's 3 to 4 times the size of a normal knee. And like, if you just smack it, it was like a big thing of liquid or Jello. Like, it would just like the whole thing would jiggle. And you know, I am thankful in that I haven't experienced any tremendous tragedy in terms of, you know, losing any family members or things like that. But up until this point today, this is the worst setback of my life and of my career that I've ever experienced. And the worst part about it is it's in my prime. An NBA player ages 27 to 29, that's your prime. That's when you play the best. And my time from 27 to 29, I have just spent being hurt. And I remember on that car ride home, I was just crying out to God, just pouring my heart out. And I remember just crying up to God and saying, why? Why me? Why me? Why? Why does something always have to happen? I've worked so hard. I know I've worked hard. I work harder than so many other players. I do the right things. I take care of my body. Why? Right? And I remember it's like 2 straight off seasons, 6 straight months, every single day, working, getting better, training, only to not be able to participate. It's like studying half a year for a test, and the morning of the test, you don't even get to take it. And I remember thinking to myself and just crying out to God, why does it have to be so hard? Why does it have to be so hard? And as the car ride began to end, I was still praying, and I started to feel a peace in my heart. And I started to feel myself really trusting God. And I remember as I was pulling up, I was basically saying, you know what, God, if this is the route you want me to take, I will do it faithfully. And so I went upstairs, and my family was there. My trainer was there. I gave everybody a hug. And I think, you know, the most surprising thing to me and my family is just, if you were in that room, if you were with me the next day, you would have never known anything had happened. Because after that 45-minute car ride back, like, it was like I was on to the next thing. I was able to turn the page and just have a very joyful, restful heart. But it was a huge, huge surprise to me. And it was such a stark contrast from who I was before. How was I able to turn the page and recover from this injury so quickly and return to a state of rest and joy? And honestly, it's a relationship with God. That's really what has carried me through this injury and this rehab process. And so, you know, that's the one thing that I really learned this past season is with God, with faith, my greatest obstacle won't be able to stop me from living with joy.
A lot of players have reached out. I would say the one that I really didn't expect was Kenyon Martin called me and told me if I needed anything regarding the rehab process and whatever, and he talked about his knee injury, and I was like, man, that was really kind of him.
Using that handle. Count it! Linsanity hits Atlanta.
My story's still being written. We don't know how it'll end. I'm not coming before you saying, look, there's a perfect bow to tie on to the end of this story and there's a happy ending. I just got traded to Atlanta. I thought I was gonna be here. I just got traded to Atlanta. And Atlanta last year was the worst team in the Eastern Conference. I'm coming back from a year-long injury. It's tough. Like, that hurt. You know, that hurt me to get traded, and it's like, I still don't know where this story is going. I don't know how it's gonna end.
29 for Beal, at 36 here the last time, 2 weeks ago. Again, Jeremy Lin is destroying the Wizards.
Jeremy Lin gets inside, got the field goal, and drew the foul.
And he just plays hard, he plays well, a very smart player. You see there, that's probing inside the lane. Lane opens up, he goes right to the basket.
Jeremy Lin's month of November, it has been absolutely very, very special. Very quiet at the beginning of the month. Now you look at it and you sit there and go, wow, tonight, 26 more points.
Yes.
Our Toyota Let's Go Places takes a look at the backup point guards night, which was absolutely phenomenal.
He's just playing fantastic basketball, involving his teammates, making his team play better when he's on the floor. So hats off to him. He takes a lot of pressure off Trae Young when he's able to come into the ball game and either raise the level of play of the team as a whole, or at least keep it where it was.
They add another player, a veteran, in Jeremy Lin.
I love the pickup. I'm a huge fan of his. I think he just brings you versatility. He's an old-fashioned guard. He can play both guard spots for you. He knows how to run a team, can play off the ball, dial up his own shot. He's outstanding in screen and roll. He's a big-time competitor, and he's just a good basketball player.
Obviously, as a buyout candidate, you could have gone a number of places. What was special about Toronto that made it the choice for you?
I made that choice because, you know, for me, I've always had a belief in myself and what I'm capable of. I haven't been afraid to go after it. I wanted that opportunity. I wanted to help a team and pursue a championship.
Land with a rebound, see if the Raptors can get something off of the D. Into the O, there you go.
I was like, you know, if I'm gonna be on a team, if I'm gonna have a similar role, but you have a chance to kind of go and make a deep playoff run, it's hard to turn down.
Scooped up, Lowry. Lead pass, Lin, reverse, good! 15-0 run. Building, erupting. This Raptor team is at their very best when they commit on this side of the ball.
And in Toronto, I really had a 12 to 15 game stretch where it would make or break my time there.
Well, hopefully he's got a better rhythm now, Matty. All he's got to do is stay in his game, and nice job right there over McGee.
His 11th game as a member of the Raptors.
When he's playing at a high level, he's a good screen and roll decision maker. He can knock down the three and keep the defense honest. Defensively, he can defend his position and make sure that he can stay in front of people. And also, Jeremy Lin is a guy who's going to play good basketball in terms of team basketball to make sure that they can play as a unit and as a leader at the point guard spot.
And up until this point, man, if I could just tell you the excitement that I had for that opportunity. Why? Because I've been waiting. I've been waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. I've waited maybe 8 years for this opportunity since Linsanity.
On the inside, turnover. Here's Meeks to Powell. Powell the lead pass. And Lin with the reverse spin. Nice move that time by Jeremy Lin.
And during this stretch, I played, I had the worst shooting of my entire career. And when the playoffs came around, I didn't get a chance to play anymore.
Got to be aware of the inbounder here if you're Philly.
It's off to Leonard, defended by Simmons. Is this the dagger?
When he launched it, I was like, this doesn't look like it's going in. And then it ended up being short, but it had such a soft touch. It was like, boom, boom. And it had 4 bounces, and by the 4th one, it was about to like fall in, and we were like, oh my goodness, is this real?
How much would you have wanted to be on the court?
Oh man, we work our whole lives to be in the NBA, and we work our whole lives to be able to compete in the playoffs. To be on that floor and to be able to compete, I would have been very, very happy and excited to do that. Obviously now that the story for that chapter is written, wasn't the ending I expected, but in many ways, I'm still grateful for that experience, and I got to win a championship. Ultimately, I just didn't play well enough, and I can own up to that. And in essence, I failed, right? I failed from not being the player that I thought I could be. There's purpose in that, there's lessons in that, there's growth in that. That's not something that I'm as afraid of.
NBA starter, you won a championship. What's next for you?
I got a lot more left.
It goes on and on and on. Everybody is here.
So I was checking out your Instagram, and I think I saw a message, and you said something like, you had a goal. One of those goals was to make it into the NBA, start as a point guard, and then you were going to win a championship. Way to call it.
I appreciate it. It's been an incredible journey, and I'm having fun along the way. So, definitely giving all the credit to God, just knowing that there's so many things I feel like I couldn't control, but to be able to achieve all those things and to be able to have, experience that, just super thankful.
Obviously a lot of people are celebrating you and saying you're like the first Asian American NBA champion. Then people are commenting, even Asian people, surprisingly, are like, yeah, but it's not like he played.
In all honesty, there were times when I felt like I had to tell myself I deserved a championship.
Right. To me, I was shocked, and I'm just like, dude, this guy's done so much for us to make us look cool, and you guys are like clowning him. I'm like, well, he's on the team. He practices with them. Like Nick Nurse didn't play. Did he not win a championship? And the GM and the owner, like they didn't play, but they're part of the team, and they're those are all parts of the team that you need to have in order to win.
Again, I had to struggle with like, do I really deserve this? And it's like the more I thought about it, I was like, actually, no, I do, and I should enjoy it, and I should embrace it.
There's definitely vulnerability. There's definitely shock and disappointment. Just seeing what had happened over the first 2 days, let alone third, fourth day, just seeing all the players signing and all the contracts that are being offered. And for me, just to see all of that happen and all the opportunities and roster spots that I thought, I could be on, just dropping before my eyes. There's been a emotional processing that I've had to do over these 4 days of, hey, you might not be an NBA player ever again.
I got my first year in after injury, and I know what it's like, and next season it's gonna be a lot different. But then free agency came around. And this was the last straw that broke the camel's back. Yeah.
splits the defenders, gets inside, lefty layup, puts it in. Sensational move from Jeremy Lin. Back to Lin. Lin gets hit, puts it in, and a foul. Great extra pass for Shumpert.
Man, it's hard. Life is hard. Because I've always wanted to do things the right way. And I've given more of myself to God every single year. And every year it gets harder. And in English there's a saying, and it says, once you hit rock bottom, the only way is up. But rock bottom just seems to keep getting more and more rock bottom for me. Because I feel like in some ways the NBA has kind of given up on me.
One of my favorite developments of the NBA in the last few years is that guys are expressing vulnerability in a way they never did before. And sometimes that's in the context of mental health. Here it's sort of professional development. And we none of us sitting here at the table, the idea that at age 30, when you've been driven by ambition and preparation, that your professional career is by and large, if not over, certainly in its late twilight, is just something that I don't think anybody can appreciate what these guys sort of go through mentally when the phone stops ringing.
But at the end of the day, he has a brand. He can make money still with his brand that the NBA has given him. He's made plenty of money, and he has a nice fallback plan of a Harvard degree. So I can't really be feeling too bad for Jeremy Lin.
You know, there's overseas opportunities for him to get paid playing basketball, and those numbers are pretty big too. Like there's dozens and dozens of people that just aren't on the top of my head right now that go overseas, prove their value, prove their worth, come back to the NBA, and then become impactful players on contending teams, which is a path that he could easily take himself.
And my biggest question goes to God. Why would you give me all this? Why would you give me everything just to leave me out to dry?
Next number is 3 million, because that's what the Beijing Ducks reportedly offered Jeremy Lin, who has agreed to join the team in the Chinese Basketball Association. Pablo, how do you see this move going for Lin?
I hope it goes well, man. I really do. And I'm sad, first and foremost, because me, selfishly, I wanted to see him come back to the Knicks. I actually don't care if the Knicks win. But secondly, how dare you impugn Jeremy Lin on his date of departure from the NBA? Because I do think, Bo, that you're underrating the guy. He was a legit NBA player who was undone by various health reasons and problems of fit, which does not make him a great NBA player historically, but it makes him a legitimate one. And now he's off to China where he'll be a messianic figure, which is cool.
I think it became really clear after free agency passed and I wasn't able to get as much traction or get a contract that there was no way I was gonna get a contract basically unless I go and show it.
He demonstrated himself clearly to be a dude who could play in the NBA. And now his body's betrayed him. Okay, cool, but he's at that age where this is what gets guys out of the league all the time. Time for him in the NBA is probably done. My question for him, though, is what are the expectations that you're walking into going to China as a player, as Jeremy Lin in particular, right? Like, what are people expecting from him? People have shown they can put up ridiculous stat lines over there in China. I'm not sure how good a player Lin still is at this point, but where I worry for him, and I'm not the most informed on how things go over there, but I can wonder, you say he's going to be a messianic figure. That's a lot to live up to.
And the hysteria for the fans over there for you, Jeremy. People are screaming, fainting wherever you go. What has been your most insane moment with the Chinese basketball fans?
But I love it. I love my fans, and this is kind of what I had mentioned. This is the closest thing to Linsanity in New York. It reminds me a lot of that.
China has identified the cause of the mysterious pneumonia outbreak in Wuhan city, and it's from the same family that caused the deadly SARS epidemic 17 years ago. It's a new type of coronavirus.
The problem is that this is an evolving situation. Literally every day we learn a little bit more about it.
There have now been more than 4 million cases of COVID-19 across the world.
Of course, the season there has been interrupted, just like it's been here. The Chinese Basketball Association had been hoping to start playing again soon.
We're figuring it out, and we're just waiting to see what happens next and if we're going to have a season or not.
Well, you've been very active in the fight against the virus. With your wallet, first of all, you've made several substantial donations in both China and America, but also with your public voice. You even responded to Donald Trump when he called COVID-19 the Chinese virus.
I would like to begin by announcing some important developments in our war against the Chinese virus.
What made you want to speak out?
My biggest thing was more just, recently we've seen a huge spike in hate crimes towards Asian Americans. And so it was just scary for me and the people that I love and stuff that, they were legitimately scared to go to the grocery store and go to the grocery store alone and things like that. So the more we can bring people together during a very divisive time, that was kind of the intention and the motivation.
Why do you keep calling this the Chinese virus?
Because it comes from China.
Racist.
It's not racist at all, no, not at all. It comes from China. That's why. It comes from China.
The Chinese Basketball League, which is seen as many as the test case for recovery from the coronavirus pandemic, has delayed its restart. The league had planned to return on April 15th. It now says it will delay that until at least May after failing to receive clearance from the Chinese government.
How tough was it knowing that you had offers for significant amounts of money in China, but deciding to then play in the G League and pursuing, your dream, which has always been your dream, playing in the NBA?
I mean, it was one of the toughest decisions in my life. It took 4 months to make this decision because of so much, stuff that was going on and the uncertainty. Was there going to be a G League bubble? Was I going to get a contract in NBA free agency? What did the CBA season look like? All different types of stuff. But at the end of the day, I decided, I wanted to give this NBA comeback a serious look, and I wanted to give myself the best opportunity.
I'm very excited. I think with COVID and everything that happened in 2020, nothing can be taken for granted.
Whenever you're ready.
I'm Jeremy Lin with the Santa Cruz Warriors. Action.
The lead up to the G League, Brian Shaw, of course, who won 5 rings in the NBA, is the coach of Ignite as Jeremy Lin hits the triple. Body kind of related him, didn't he, to like a running back who feels like, he knows how to leverage his body as Santa Cruz gets another three-pointer from Jeremy Lin.
Jeremy Lin with 12 points so far in this game off the bounce. We're used to seeing that.
Just to be able to get on the court and play is refreshing. I'm just grateful, and for me, one of my biggest goals is to come here and soak everything in and enjoy it. And this is my 11th year playing professional basketball, but for whatever reason, it seems like, almost feels like my rookie year in terms of just, I don't know, there's something different that after last season, after COVID, there's something different about now that every time you step on the floor. And so I just want to soak everything in and embrace it as much as I can.
If I succeed, I succeed. If I fail, I fail. But I truly believe is at the end of the day, like Jesus is with me, and that's enough. And I'm not saying that I'm gonna go in there and not give my best effort or anything, but it's the truth is like I just want to go and play free and have fun.
If that doesn't take your breath away, I don't know what does.
Something out of nothing. And this is why, for many reasons, you love having him on your team.
With such aggression. And he had that earlier three as well. Jeremy Lin has checked in, so missing just one game yesterday with the back stiffness. The floater is short, but a foul called right at the end of the shot clock. And that's the second personal against Brissett.
Jeremy Lin, the first American-born NBA player of Chinese or Taiwanese descent, who currently is playing in the G League, says he's been called coronavirus while on the court.
Former NBA star Jeremy Lin says he has experienced racism while playing basketball. In a social media post, Lin says he has been called coronavirus on the court, but says he has no plans to name or shame anyone who made the slurs.
With attacks against Asian Americans on the rise, NBA G League player Jeremy Lin is opening up about an experience he had on the court. In a Facebook post, here's what he writes. He says, being an Asian American doesn't mean we don't experience poverty and racism. Being a 9-year NBA veteran doesn't protect me from being called coronavirus on the court. Being a man of faith doesn't mean I don't fight for justice for myself and for others. So here we are again, sharing how we feel. Is anyone listening?
I applaud Jeremy for his words and echo his sentiments regarding racism against the Asian American community. It's just so ridiculous. I don't know. I can't wrap my head around any of it. But I can't wrap my head around racism in general.
Definitely takes a lot of courage to come out and say something like that. And I don't think he was doing it in a way to call anyone out or accuse anyone of saying anything, because I don't even think he mentioned the player's name. So it was more of just an awareness factor, and it takes a lot of courage to come out and say something like that. So we, of course, had his back. It's not something that should be said, especially in the times of today. So the whole team had his back.
You've been in the news recently because you shared that during a game you're currently playing with the G League, and that somebody called you what is clearly intended as a slur. Somebody yelled, coronavirus at you. First of all, you did disclose this to the league, but you haven't disclosed the name of the person who said this to you. Tell us a little bit more about how you chose to deal with this and why.
At first I wrestled a lot with whether to say anything about it or not, and kind of sat on it for a week or so. The reason why I didn't want to talk about who it was or go into the specifics of that is because kind of the overarching principle or the bedrock, the foundation of what I'm trying to say is that we need to have love and empathy and compassion for each other. And if I come out and try to take somebody down or burn somebody or get quote unquote justice or what I feel like is right, and by hurting somebody else, I don't think that builds on what I'm trying to do. I think that's a hypocritical message. And so, for me, it's really about, hey, how can we educate
more people about what's going on, and then how we can change to be better, and how we can stop this violence. And that's really the heart of what I'm trying to say. And kind of chatted with my family and my friends, and we decided to talk about it in relation to everything else that has been going on. And again, to me, it's not about what I experienced, because that is, you know, nothing compared to what we're seeing right now, which we see people getting spit on, people getting robbed, people getting assaulted. We see people getting killed, burned, stabbed. I mean, we're seeing all of that all the time. You know, we're seeing other people who come to the defense of other Asian Americans or other Asians, and then they get assaulted or they get injured. And so we're seeing a lot of stuff right now, and that is the real issue that I wanted to bring awareness around. As Asian Americans, we're all hurting and we're all being, you know, targeted. It feels very different. I think, you know, growing up, it was always something that might be a little bit more subtle or verbal. But I think what we're seeing right now is a lot of physical, actual violence, lives being taken. A lot of Asian Americans who are looking over their shoulders when they go outside, when they go to the grocery store. It's like, my raw emotion is that it feels like it's happening more, and it feels like it's getting worse.
A security guard watched the whole time, and then more show up. None stopped the attacker, not one.
The J-Train beating is brutal. Fists flew both ways until they didn't. Eventually, an Asian man passes out after getting punched, choked.
Trump's gonna you.
You need to leave.
You need to leave.
Well, you do not talk about us like that. You need to leave.
Asian piece of.
The surge in hate crimes against Asian Americans only getting worse, and some of the accounts are extremely violent.
When I was young, it was kind of like, you know what, I'm going to work harder, and I'm going to let my game speak, and I'm going to play better than you, but I won't talk back. And I'm going to win the game, and I'm going to walk off the court and be very polite. Now it's more like, oh, you said something to me, it's cool. Like, I'm still going to try to do the same thing. I'm going to try to turn it into something where I'm more focused, I play better and all of that, and I try to win the game. At the same time, like, I'm not as afraid to talk about it anymore. I'm not as afraid to speak out about it, because that's what we need. And I think what we're seeing is people are getting fed up. I'm getting fed up. Everyone's getting fed up.
Particularly in response to this incident where somebody called you a slur on the court. Like, what was the response? I understand that the league investigated, but what else? What happened?
Like I said, I got to talk to the G League. I got to talk to the player directly, and we talked a lot about other things. And one of the things that stuck out the most to me was the other player was like, hey, I went online and I didn't realize how much was happening to the Asian American community, because I've been in this bubble and we've been playing basketball nonstop every day. Like, and to me, it was like, man, like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, we're learning more about each other. We're learning more about what's going on. And that to me is really, really productive.
Did he apologize?
Yeah.
You did apologize.
Yeah, I mean, we talked it out and resolved it, you know, person to person.
No, I'm just asking, did you accept his apology?
Yeah, of course.
Mm-hmm. No, not of course. I mean, you know, as you pointed out, some people would like to see something else.
I mean, for me, it's you know, it goes back to my faith, to be honest, and understanding that, you know, I've been forgiven, we've all been forgiven, and so who am I to be above somebody else and not accept an apology or anything like that? You know, for me, forgiveness, you know, I'm a Christian, and so I feel like Jesus dying on the cross for my sins and forgiving me has given me a different level of an appreciation for the grace and the love of something that I didn't maybe deserve. I definitely didn't deserve it. And I feel like one of the things that I read through the Bible is that as Christians, we should be filled and appreciative of this love, where we have so much of this love that we're able to spread it to other people. And I think that is the basis of everything that I try to do. But me, from my standpoint of who I try to be as a human is, hey, I'm going to be wronged many times in my life, but I'm also going to wrong a lot of people in my life as well. And I hope that when the dust settles on everything and when people talk things out, that we get to a place of
forgiveness, because I think that is one of the most rewarding ways to live life.
Creating separation. Jeremy Lin, good.
Jeremy Lin on the reverse. 52-49. Jeremy Lin.
I mean, it's not always the quickest, right? But if you can make some space in traffic the way he does, you don't know if he's going to pull up, pass it. He doesn't give anything away about his game.
I definitely will say, like, look, my path, especially as an Asian or Asian American, doesn't matter how how you want to spice it up, is uphill. It is different. It is harder. I don't look like the norm, and that's why I think for me, I was in many ways the first to ever do certain things, right? Like you've seen a lot of players, you've seen them come over from China, and they're, typically all 7 feet or above. They're centers, and they're born overseas. They come over here. I don't look like that. I'm 6'3". I'm a point guard, born in LA, raised in California, speak English, and it's just different. And so people haven't known what to do with that. And I think for me, it's been an uphill climb, and it continues to be. And the doors that I have opened, do I think that I had to work harder to open those doors than somebody else? For sure. But that's the life that we're in, and that's part of it. And so that's why I think it's, it fuels me to try to be great and be great at the highest level and be the best you can be.
It's clear you are leaving a mark, in your legacy athletically. What do you want to leave as a legacy before you leave the planet?
Again, not to over spiritualize, but I think about when I get to the gates of heaven, he's either going to say, "Well done, my good and faithful servant," or "Depart from me, I never knew you." And that's very real for me. Thinking about that, it's scary thinking about that.
Drive and finishes. There's the dunk you talked about, Clyde. Jeremy Lin fires up the crowd. Lin puts it up. Bang! Jeremy Lin from downtown, and the Knicks take the lead.
When I think about my legacy or anything, it's just dude, I just want to do right by God, and that's it. God has really brought me through so many highs and lows, but at this point, it's look, obviously I want to have the biggest platform and do the most amazing things, but I'm learning that the real legacy is to find joy in your journey every day, to find contentment wherever God puts you, and if he gives you a little, you do great with that little, and if he gives you a lot, you do great with that lot. And so that's for me, is just trying to figure it out, seeing my stock go so high to Linsanity being the most popular person on the planet, literally, to all the way down to where it is today. Even in all those in-betweens, can I still live the same way and live for the same things? And maybe my legacy won't be as big, but my legacy will be still somebody who just tried to do right by God.
I'm still walking around with my head up. I can't look down. Too many days I walked around fed up. I've been on lockdown. I've been quarantined inside Satan's world for about 26 years now. Now I'm at the point of desperation. Now I'ma tell him that God is who I fear now. So many times Jesus had to grab the wheel. I know that's for real. I can't even lie. I'm going downhill. I feel like Jack and Jill. Satan chasing me every day, trying to run me like I'm in cleats, but he ain't gon' knock me, trying to stop me from doing somersaults on these beats. But I know you're just testing me, so I can't let him bury me. everything you telling me. I know the spirit never failing me. I listen carefully.
We were celebrating. Oh shoot! My mama got the trophy.
Disaster. I get on social media and all I can see is distractions. During this pandemic, all I learned is that I ain't gonna say it. Clearly God trying to speak to us and we laughing. We all just acting like we established, like God owe us something, so we mad and care about material things and we flashy, steady going back and forth like in traffic. I thought I was ready, you told me to wait. I've been making mistakes, so I hope I ain't late when I'm rapping for you. I go hard in the paint, trying to change the world, but I feel like I can't. Hold up. But I know you're just testing me, so I can't let them bury me. I hear everything you telling me.
Sometimes you may feel alone, but God is right there, right beside you. There is nothing to fear, just call on